Once you find yourself in conflict with a narcissist, it's a virtual guarantee they're going to start playing head games with you. That's why I put together a new course. It's very extensive called Anger Games. I'm going to teach you how to manage anger and conflict with a narcissist. There's a link below that's going to show you how to register, and I hope that you find it to be very insightful. One of the most common complaints or frustrations that I hear from individuals is something like, I wound up being in a very toxic relationship, but actually I didn't really see this coming for quite some time. It caught me off guard. It wound up being much more negative than I thought it would be. Now, when I hear something like that, almost immediately the bells go ringing off in my mind that says, okay, we're dealing with covert narcissism here. Let's keep in mind that when we talk about, or at least when I talk about narcissism, I'm talking about the dark side of the human personality. We all want to be in control in some way, and we can be selfish. Sometimes we act too superior. Sometimes we can be too defensive and entitled and manipulative. Every one of us has at least the possibility for that. Healthy individuals will say, you know what, I see that as a possibility, and I don't want to go into that space. I want to be known for something much better than that, and they commit themselves to the better alternatives. Some individuals, though, it's like, well, I'm not real sure that I want to let go of all of that control and selfishness because, frankly, I like having things my way and I like being in control, but I can give the appearance that I am moving in a much cleaner direction when, in fact, I'm not. And so the covert narcissist is defined by how stealth they are. They can start out by giving the impression that they're a really friendly and cooperative and engaging kind of an individual, and you can have many experiences with them where you think, wow, this is really going well, only to find out later on that there are multitudes of other behaviors and attitudes that will emerge because they can't stop themselves in the long run, but they'll emerge that shows that there's a very strong narcissistic bent. So today I want to focus on 10 of the most common stealth toxic behaviors and attitudes that are portrayed by covert narcissists, and you're typically not going to see it for a while, but then once you see it, it begins to be more and more of a known pattern, and that's when you need to realize, run for the hills. This is not a healthy relationship. Now, one of the very first signs of that stealth covert narcissist is these are individuals who have a great difficulty acknowledging their own faults. I mentioned that we all have something on the inside of us that's not right, and the narcissistic person thinks, I don't know that I need to be saying much of that. They don't want to take responsibility for the dark side of their personality. And so if there is something that's wrong that goes on in their life or they make mistakes, you know what they'll do? It's someone else's fault. Blame shifting is a very common theme that they have. They won't admit their faults. It's inevitably due to circumstances or people out there. A second indicator of their stealth covert narcissism is they have defensive responses that are automatic. They're just kind of baked in. I mean, it's something simple. You may say something like, I didn't like the way this turned out. Or when you said this, it just didn't really strike me as something that I want to do. And you might just say something that could be rather mild. And real quickly, they can go on the defensive. Well, I didn't mean to do it that way, or you got it all wrong, or I don't know how you made that interpretation. And you're thinking, I'm just trying to share with you my thought or my impression. But that wall of defensive is quick and it's automatic. They take any kind of hint of negativism as the possibility of rejection. And they throw up their walls of self-protection very quickly and almost always very unnecessarily. A third sign of their toxicity is criticism is just built into their discussions. For example, narcissists have to have a real strong sense of right versus wrong, and they may be talking with you about something that happened at work and say something like, this person I'm dealing with, they're just an idiot. They're constantly getting in my way, and I don't know how to get around them. Or it may be that they're talking about a family member. It's like, oh yeah, that person's got a bad temper, and they just kind of naturally say things like that. And we all have thoughts of that nature from time to time. But with that narcissistic person, it's like, it's just a little bit too common. And those kind of comments flow a little bit too easily from them. And it illustrates that down beneath the surface is this hidden attitude of superiority over other individuals. A fourth sign of their toxic, covert narcissism is that when they do good deeds, those good deeds are to them the same as scoring points. Okay. In other words, they may do you a favor, or they may be helpful, or they may have said something very encouraging, and there's kind of like, did anybody notice that? That was pretty good, wasn't it? And they like being regaled, and they like being a part of the good team where folks are saying, way to go, you're so terrific. It's like, yeah, I did pretty good, didn't I? And there's a little bit too much of a need to have that their own good deeds get the extra special attention. Number 5, and that is these individuals will deny having anger issues. Now, they can have lots of tension or frustration or anxiety or impatience, and they don't see that as having anything to do with their anger, when in fact those can actually be muffled forms of anger. When they say I don't have anger issues, what they mean is you're probably not going to catch me screaming at the top of my lungs, and I'm not going to just go shouting and just getting into a wild tirade. But anger is so much more varied than that. But they want to deny anything that might give the appearance of negativity, when in fact there's a constant undertow of irritability and annoyance that you eventually over time realize you have to start tiptoeing around. Number 6, and that is they can give helpful negative input about other individuals. For example, they may say something like, this person over here that we socialize with, they lie kind of easily, or this person over there, they're pretty judgmental. You need to be careful about that. Or this individual, they've been holding a grudge against me for a long time, and I don't know why. And they're trying to be helpful toward you, and yet in the process, they're showing some of that anger, but they're also implying, I'm so much better than these individuals. You see, I don't do things like that, and the implication is that they're experts, masters, if you will, at finding fault in others, but they give it under the guise of I'm just trying to be helpful with you. Number 7, they can minimize your problems or concerns. If you say something that's bothering you or something that's just kind of a frustration, they may say something like, "Oh, you don't need to lose sleep over that," or I don't think that's something you need to worry about," which is translated, which I would translate as, "I'm uncomfortable when you share uncomfortable thoughts and feelings." And that's their lack of empathy. I don't want to go into that space with you. I don't really want to park at that kind of place. Number 8. These individuals are not good at keeping confidences. It may be that, particularly in the early times, you may have shared some personal data with that individual, or talked about some very vulnerable things in your own life, only to find out later on that somebody else brings it up, and you realize this person has been talking behind my back, and I thought I was kind of sharing some things in confidence. But it illustrates they like having the scoop on you. They like having gossip. And just like those negative suggestions, negative input they'll give about others, well, eventually you become the person they give negative input about. And then number 9, their personal disclosures tend to be, in particular when they're talking about problems, tend to be a little more than complaints about other people. For example, a person might say, "I'm struggling to figure out how to do this, that, and the other." The narcissist will say something like, I've had some problems with this issue, but my mother is one of the most disruptive people you'd ever met. Or this coworker that I'm dealing with has got to be one of the most controlling people. And so as they try to share with you in a vulnerable kind of way, it's not really about themselves. It's about all the people in their world that are screw-ups, and it allows them to take a victim's kind of a mindset. And then number 10, these individuals show their toxicity because inevitably they have to be better than. They'll accentuate their positives, they'll minimize their negatives, they'll accentuate your negatives and minimize your positives, and it's their way of saying, I'm the better person here. Now, you take each of these 10 characteristics that I mentioned, and one at a time, it's like, we can kind of let that slide. But over time, you realize these patterns and these inclinations are pervasive, and they're repetitive. And the more you get to know them, the more those kind of ingredients come into bear. To that covert narcissist, image crafting is a supreme driver in the way that they engage with you. And by the way, this is part of their way of trying to avoid any kind of shame that may have been placed on them in their deep history. They, like I mentioned, they like to be able to be the victim. And so if there's a problem or if there's a strain or a difficulty in their world, in their mind, they're thinking, yeah, I got screwed over, or I'm the good guy here. Can't you see all the nice things that I've done? And that's part of that toxicity. You see that the goodness is part of their way of trying to win people over in the public relations department. They want to avoid discomfort. I mean, don't we all? But in their world, it's like, and I'll do anything I can to put my discomfort onto you, displacement and projection. They have chronic selfishness, even as they try to give the appearance of goodness. In their selfishness, when they do something good, it's like, now you owe me. And they want to hide or cover up the fullness of their dysfunction. They have plenty of anger and fear and shame and insecurity. It's like, I am not about to admit any of that. So when I talk about narcissists having this covert, toxic kind of self-absorption, this is one of these things that it's like, well, over time, it takes time for it to show up, but over time, you begin realizing I'm dealing with somebody who is not able to engage with me in a mutual kind of way. And that being the case, you realize that the word covert actually means hidden or concealed or secretive, and that being the case, I'm hoping you're going to conclude I can't have a full or meaningful relationship with anyone who is defined by this type of toxic deception. I hope that videos like this can give you some awareness of what you're dealing with. When you say, I didn't see this coming, well, now that you see these, it's like, okay, I need to read the signs and make my adjustments accordingly. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do so. We'll keep more videos coming towards you. As you deal with things like this, I know there are times when you think, I could use some help in making my way through this. I've been sponsored for years by the people at BetterHelp.com. It's an online therapy resource. You go through the link that we have below the video here and answer a few questions, and then you get to select a therapist that can work through this with you. It can be so helpful for that person to say, let's put it out on the table. Let's talk. Let's see if we can get some sound reason to this, understand who you are, and then move forward in a healthy way. Get the help that you need. Now, in my retirement from my counseling practice, I put together online courses, online classes, and you can do it at your pace. Each class, each course has at least 25 teaching videos, and each video has handouts with guided questions, and it's very helpful in a therapeutic kind of way. We have anger games about staying out of their traps that they put in front of you. This is me about establishing boundaries. Free to be, ready, set, connect, having healthy connections. And so there's links below and on my website that'll avail you to that. In my website, we have access to my webinars, which are 90-minute presentations of a whole different variety. They've proven to be quite popular, and you can look into those along with access to my podcasts, articles, lots of articles, and my books, etc. So we have plenty of resources for you. Thanks for allowing me to be a part of your journey in that respect. Now, one of the reasons you didn't see the covert narcissist coming is because they're so good at covering up. That's the stealth part. But ultimately, that toxicity is just going to show up. It will be there. It's just built into who they are. And so, unfortunately, it's going to appear. When it does, that's when you need to make your adjustments. And as you do, I'm hoping you can commit yourself to the better alternative of steadiness. And ultimately, you can go deeper and deeper towards you, connecting with people who will help you find your sense of peace.